Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto was taken by Yoda and trained to become a Jedi Knight. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. With Allender. Sir, we are holding back the separatists, but the flanks aren't doing so well. An officer reported as Lander slightly frowned. The center was holding strong, and Yularen managed to finally push up to meet his fleet and started to mount a strong defense, but the separatists were still greater in number. What about Ross? Allender questioned. The group of separatist frigates and the destroyer had managed to break through the right flank and headed towards the surface. Ross would be severely outnumbered and outgunned, even with his new vessel. No word, sir. The officer reported as Allender sighed. Not only was Ross most likely stuck engaging the enemy fleet on the surface, his communications were also being jammed. A typical strategy the separatists like to use along with their swarm-like tactics. All he could do was hold them back and allow them to waste their resources to weaken them. With Ross frowned as he saw a small fleet, about 4 Munificence and a Rakusen-class destroyer, enter the atmosphere of the planet, intent on engaging him, and sure enough the rain of turbo blasters began as the separatist fleet split up as the destroyer kept its course dead ahead. Sir, those frigates are trying to surround us. An officer stated as Ross nodded at that. The Republic's ships had one glaring weakness, the fear. Due to the design of the ships, all power and shield were optimized for frontal attacks. However, Ross would not let an enemy best him once more. Target that frigate at point 39 with a second volley of concussion missiles from the starboard side, and don't let up our heavy turbo laser fire. Focus shield on the dorsal side to avoid damage from that destroyer. Ross ordered. By knocking out the frigates first, he would destroy this small fleet's mobility, and by bolstering the shield on his underside, he could negate much of the droid destroyer's incoming fire. He would make this quick and easy for the ground troops. With Naruto, sure could use some air support about now Ross. Naruto commented as he and Ayla kept on deflecting incoming fire from the droid positions. They had managed to destroy the shield generator by using an 8, but the droid positions far behind the generator opened up, revealing more heavy weaponry. This once again pinned down the Republic advance. This layered defense system that the separatists are using is quite the challenge. Ayla added as Naruto nodded. This was one of the few times he had saw such a sophisticated level of defense and planning from the droids. Looking up, Naruto smiled as Siri's fighter flew high above, followed by her squadrons. However, at that moment she flew into the range of the separatists' anti-air bunkers. Even her superior starfighter wasn't able to evade the flak for long. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw smoke trailing her starfighter before it began to spiral towards the ground. She isn't too far away, Naruto told himself. If I go now, I can save her. I wouldn't even be away for that long. Naruto's racing mind hesitated for only the briefest of moments, but rescuing Siri had immediately become his top priority. Skywalker, take charge. King, bring your best men. On me. Naruto ordered as he quickly made his way to the impending crash site, ignoring Anakin's request to wait. With Siri, damn it. Siri coughed out as she opened her eyes. Looking up, she blinked. It seemed that she had survived the crash. The cockpit was a mess as sparks flew everywhere, and smoke covered the whole cockpit as she used the force and pushed the cockpit open. Siri. She heard a familiar voice as she looked around to see where it was coming from, and sure enough it was Naruto. Naruto? She questioned before she remembered where she was. That's right, I crashed. She thought, her memory quickly back as Naruto came to a halt in front of her with a concerned look on his face. Are you okay? Naruto questioned her as she nodded, still disoriented from the crash. Are you sure? Naruto questioned again, concerned that she might have some sort of injury. However, Siri shook her head. I'm fine, she said firmly as she wiped off some dust and applied medical ointment to the shallow cuts on her arm and shoulders caused by the shattered glass. Naruto observed her movements, making sure that she was still battle-capable before nodding. Alright then, sis, since you're on the ground now, you might as well help us take out one of these generators. Naruto remarked, briefly wondering once again as to why the separatists insisted on having so many redundant generators. Siri nodded before looking at her hull map of the battlefield. Looking around the map, she took notice Sarah and Fi's legions were mopping up the droids to the southeast. I'll head back to take command of their legions to the south, and meet up with Master Balaba's advance force. We should be able to begin an assault on the 5th generator pretty soon. Siri pointed out as Naruto nodded. She hadn't crash landed too far from the front lines, and it didn't take that long or much resistance to arrive at her location. Naruto nodded as he glanced over Siri's body, making certain that she was alright. Her adrenaline subsiding, Siri began to realize just how cold it was in the open air of Renvar. She went to a nearby clone to requisition some winter gear. Sir, General Kenobi has taken to the field with the rest of the 7th Corps. King reported as he walked up to Naruto, explaining him the situation. Naruto turned around, somewhat surprised, but then nodded in understanding. Obi-Wan was no naval officer, he hated space travel, and would serve better on the ground as a supreme commander than in orbit. That's actually great news, have Anakin and the 501st meet up with Obi-Wan. I'll be there too to recommend an attack on the final generator. If we're lucky, they might be able to get ahead of the Separatists' main force before we have too many more to deal with. Me and Isla will stay behind to deal with the one ahead of us. Naruto stated as King nodded before relaying the to Obi-Wan. Well, off you go. Bring down that generator ASAP and we can get out of here. Naruto said with a grin as he turned to Siri, who was just putting the warm winter clothing on over her red flight suit. Escorting her were some of King's best men from First Company, as they rushed at near superhuman speeds across the battlefield. With a final nod, he too turned and began to return to his forces. With Obi-Wan calmly walked off the shuttle as the battle raged on ahead. He inspected the situation on ground with his own eyes, and he was pleased to find out that they have made much progress. About time you decided to join us, Master. Obi-Wan rolled his eyes at that as he turned to the one who made the comment. There, he found Anakin waiting for him, smirking his Skywalker smirk. Well, I had to do something other than just sit and wait, Obi-Wan remarked. He would be much more useful on ground than in space. Not too long after he disembarked, Commander King had come up to his ear and spoke something that made the Jedi Master nod. We have everything under control here. You should go help out Master Balaba. Anakin affirmed as another barrage of concussion missiles rained down from above, this time targeting the droids near the West Ridge. Anakin deflated as Master Balaba broke through the ruined droid lines. Or you can just sit back and watch. We can take care of this generator. Really? Because it looks like your troops haven't moved an inch in over 20 minutes. Anakin again felt the air leave his wounded pride. Don't fret, my apprentice. Not even I could take on a fortified droid army when they're fighting on the high ground like that. A more experienced tactician is necessary. Obi-Wan gestured to King, and Anakin figured out Obi-Wan's implication from there. Anakin only shrugged. If he and his master couldn't take it, there was no reason to think that Naruto could. The blonde had helped their situation greatly, but everyone was doing their part, and the situation overall was under control, even if their advance had been forestalled. If you two are done with the pleasantries, we have a generator to destroy, Master Kenobi. Isla interjected as Obi-Wan nodded. Actually, Anakin and I are going for another target. You and Naruto are continuing forward the final, while Siri is joining Deepa's advance towards the fifth. Obi-Wan stated as Isla blinked at that. This was news to her, but an order was an order. Glad you finally made it, old man. Isla jumped up, a bit spooked at the voice behind her before she calmed down, and saw it was only Naruto. Stop doing that. Isla shouted as Naruto raised an eyebrow. Stop doing what? He questioned as she sighed. Naruto must not have realized, but for however long she hadn't kept track, he had developed a habit of sneaking up on her, and the small surprises had steadily drove her insane. If you two don't mind, we have a job to do, Obi-Wan said as he and Anakin made their way to the front lines. Shield generator didn't often destroy themselves. Naruto nodded as he then turned to Isla. You heard him, let's move out. Naruto stated, even though there were 3 remaining, the one they were going after would be the last one standing as it was the furthest from them. Isla nodded as the two quickly departed. With Siri and Deepa, 3 hours later. Open fire. Deepa shouted as a concentrated barrage from several aids destroyed the 5th shield generator, exposing a part of the base. It had been a long siege as she and Siri's legions pushed past the droid forces through sheer brute force. There was no real strategy to have on this field as their forces were completely in the open. All she could do was feign attacking and retreating to lure the droids out, but even that tactic began to show its age, as most droids were getting smart to it, due to the many times it had been reused. Over time, Deepa was able to create an opening and exploit it, waiting further before completely destroying the droid line, and having a clear shot at the generator. General Tachi, we have droids surrounding our perimeter. The clone shouted as the droids began to open fire, laying down heavy fire that kept Siri and her forces pinned down. Hold the line, she shouted, deflecting several blaster bolts as the droids kept on firing. The clones managed to find some cover in the ruins of the droid lines, however it would not last them long. We need air support, Siri thought, doing the best she could. It was then when the perimeter around them exploded wildly, wiping out all of the droids around them. Siri raised an eyebrow at that as she looked up and saw that it was Roth's flagship that was responsible for saving her and the legions. Show off, she commented as she turned to the clones. We are going to make our way to Obi-Wan's forces and act as reinforcements. She shouted out her order as the clones nodded. One last battle and the day would be theirs. With Naruto and Isla, the 2 Jedi faced an insurmountable cliff that continued to stall their advance. While Anakin and Obi-Wan made their way towards their target, fighting through the endless amount of droids that were in their way, Naruto and Isla had been stuck in roughly the same spot as they were 3 hours ago. However, as the two fanned out deeper and deeper into the enemy lines to try to find a way closer to the generator, they made a very interesting discovery. This tunnel must be how they must be resupplying their base, Isla commented, inspecting the large underground passageway. Yeah, and it seems like there's a whole network of them. They're all super well hidden too. I would have never found this thing if I weren't looking for it intentionally. Naruto added on as Ayla nodded at that. It made sense such a large amount of droids and supplies would require a large network of tunnels, not just one. It was then it hit Naruto. This tunnel could lead to their main base. He stated as Ayla's eyes widened. If that was true, then they could use this tunnel to attack the main base and end this battle even more quickly. But what about the shield generator? Ayla questioned as Naruto thought over their next course of action. They'll take only the 497th and assault the main base and try to capture their commander, take to the 7th Legion through these tunnel, and maybe you'll be able to find a way around that damn ridge. Naruto explained the plan as Ayla nodded. This could cause enough chaos within the separatist lines to allow the rest of the 327th under Bly to easily take the contested separatist position. Roger that. Good luck, General. Ayla bid farewell as Naruto smirked. Don't you know me? Luck is my middle name, he said with his stupid grin in full force. Ayla only rolled her eyes, responding with a smirk of her own as Naruto and King ran off into the distance. I know for certain your people don't give middle names to their offspring, you silly man. Ayla pondered whimsically as she tried to find her way up the inside of the ridge, behind separatist lines, and into the generator complex. In the separatist base. Although Naruto had entered the separatist headquarters with almost an entire legion, he began to worry as he noticed two things. The first being that the separatist commander was still holding back several tens of thousands of droids, and was preparing to deploy them through the tunnel system against Kenobi's force, advancing on the southernmost generator complex. The second was that various B-1s were loading up dozens of transports that were escaping through a hidden hangar on the south side of the fortress. The Confederacy was preparing to abandon the planet, and for good reason. They had lost millions of droids. Naruto had scattered his forces across what he presumed would be the barracks of the base, but it was really just a storage space for battle droids of all shapes and sizes. As King got the signal from each time, Naruto prepared to give the order to strike, when he suddenly overheard a very interesting conversation from a group of B-1s. Count Dooku sure is in a rush to evacuate the base, complained a blue-striped lieutenant. His servos were beginning to lock up from the strain of constantly lifting heavy equipment. Well, what would you do? The Republic just sent in General Kenobi to back up General Uzumaki. Those two are in competition for being the best generals the Jedi have to offer. Defending this planet doesn't matter to Dooku anymore. Now the only important thing is getting the hell out of here, before they storm the place and blow everything up. The red-striped sergeant returned with his own brand of sass. After that, Naruto droned out their talk of dealing as much damage to the Republic, before they escaped to look around as his men. If King weren't wearing a helmet, Naruto was sure he would have seen his jaw drop as low as his own. Count Dooku was the separatist commander on Renvar. No wonder the Confederacy had thrown everything they had at them. They weren't trying to protect the planet, they were trying to stall for Dooku's evacuation. Naruto turned to King, who only held up his hand. Go, General. My men and I can handle the droids here. If you can subdue and capture Count Dooku, we can end this war today. King had treaded the waters of ordering Naruto around with that sentence. Naruto only shook his head. You're outnumbered at least 20-1 down there. There's no way I can leave you guys to face a horde of scrap metal that size. Naruto protested King's suggestion vehemently, but King also shook his head, standing firm. Sir, if we die this day for the sake of you being able to end this war, then it would be a death I welcomed. I'm not dying for the Republic. I'm not dying for democracy, the Jedi or the Senate. Just you. The only reason I'm still fighting in this war is because you are, and I'm not going to leave your side until death claims one of us. King hesitated for a moment, realizing that his voice had gotten too loud. You become our battle brother, Naruto. I've seen firsthand how Skywalker and the others command their clones, and they can't be compared to you. You've always thought of me as a person, never as a clone. Hell, I've never even heard you address any of us as clones. Needless to say, these words were highly effective. Naruto had never noticed his internal reluctance to call his men clones. Sure, they all had the same face, but despite all the high-tech breeding and rigorous training, their personalities had survived, and it showed in their tattoos and alterations to their hair and uniforms. Ever know, especially in their names. They had feelings, hobbies, and desires into Naruto that made them no different than people, and they had become his friends. And if his friends wanted him to capture Count Dooku, he very well couldn't let them down, could he? Naruto relented in his persistence to stay behind with a sullen nod of understanding. He moved into position just above the blast door and waited. A few moments later, King and his men repelled from the rafters and began blasting anything in sight, particularly the loaded transports, in an attempt to keep them from escaping. A few of their captains panicked and immediately took off, but others were disabled by the clones' rockets. A heavy equipment crane had been toppled over by carefully placed explosives, and permanently sealed the rest of the hangar bays, as well as crushing a few droids in the process. Naruto waited patiently and painfully long for the reinforcements to arrive from below him. With a quick dive, he activated his lightsaber and did a wild spiraling dash through their ranks, cutting them all down. Naruto didn't stop and continued in a full sprint through the blast door. The Seps had been so kind to open for him. in Dooku's private hangar. Count Dooku waited patiently as his transport was being prepared. His master had given him the order to ensure that the Republic's assault failed, however, it was far too late for that. The Republic forces were overrunning their defenses and would soon be upon him in droves. The fleet above wasn't faring any better, either. Though Grievous's initial counterattack produced some results, it was far too late and was easily contained. Master Sidious will not like this. Dooku threw as he frowned. His master would be very displeased with the news of this defeat. Not only that, but that Jedi, Naruto Uzumaki, was the cause of all of this. His actions had turned the tide of many battles. The boy's arrival alone had inspired a new well of hope for the ranks of the Republic. It had also enticed Skywalker into a bit of playful competition. Dooku. He was broken out of this thought as he sidestepped the incoming blue blade, which cut down his pilot and his B2 guards in one full swing. Dooku followed the thrown blade back to the offending party and gave an insincere smile. Speak of the demon. Dooku's warm greeting masked the cutting insult. Naruto ignored Dooku's acknowledgement of Kurama and jumped down from the catwalk as he raised his saber towards the apprentice Sith. That's as far as you go, Dooku. Surrender, and we can end this pointless war without any more bloodshed. Naruto stated, his lightsaber at the ready. Dooku chuckled at the blonde's word. Pointless. This war is far from pointless. The Republic has neglected the worlds of the Outer Rim, allowing pirates, criminal organizations, and the Hutts to expand. They have levied countless taxes, trade routes, intended for corporations, but failing to consider the ruin it brings to other businesses. The Republic did nothing but cater to the Inner Rim elite. This is why the Separatist Alliance was born, to break away from the Republic and to protect ourselves from the Republic's inevitable demise. Dooku stated. Though at one point he really believed in this cause, that was long ago. All that mattered now was to bring an end to everything and pave the way for a new power. Be that as it may, your actions contradict your words. You abandoned the worlds that have been left isolated. You threw away your allies and oppressed neutral worlds until they join you. You are no freedom fighter, Dooku. I see your Sith plan for what it is. Surrender now, and we can put an end to the Sith forever. Naruto offered Dooku a way out, but the Force had warned him Dooku would not be swayed back to the light so easily. Naruto readied his blade for the upcoming duel. Surrender? Master Uzumaki, why would I surrender to someone who lost to a droid like Grievous? Dooku questioned him, taunting the young Jedi Master. Naruto narrowed his eyes at that. You're right, but you're forgetting one thing. You're not a mechanically modified freak like Grievous. Naruto countered, tightening his grip on his saber. Dooku chuckled and nodded his head at that. That is true, I'm not Grievous. I'm far better. Dooku proclaimed, igniting his red saber and preparing his Makashi cadences. Naruto was the first to move, swiftly but cautiously rushing forward. As Dooku was a Form 2 specialist, Naruto chose to counter with his new Gemso techniques. Opening with a series of belligerent strikes, Naruto tried goading Dooku into making a mistake he could use against him, but he found no such mistake. Finding no flaw in the aged Sith's technique, Naruto instead opted to force Dooku into making a mistake. Naruto pushed in close for a Chomoku strike at Dooku's lower leg, but the Count's dueling form easily parried the attack with a downward flourish, and attempting to disable the Jedi at the knee in the process, but Naruto backflipped up onto the catwalk. Switching to his Form IV specialty, Naruto flipped over Dooku and unleashed a fierce assault on the Count's central line. The young blonde began to pressure the aging man towards the stairs, not once letting up the attack as he attacked from any and all possible angles. I must say you have improved since I saw you on Geonosis. Dooku commented, parrying, reflecting, and counterattacking every single attack with grace. The boy was able to outmaneuver him several times with his unpredictable strikes, but it nothing the experienced former Jedi couldn't recover from. I'm just getting started. Naruto replied, changing to Makashi tactics in the middle of his cadence. Dooku frowned at the poor display of expertise in the form, expecting much more from a Jedi Master, but that's when Dooku noticed it. Although he was blocking the strikes with ease, the power behind each attack left a stinging feeling in his hand. This wasn't pure Makashi, this was a Makashi cadence with Gemso power behind it. Dooku switched hands and went in for a counterattack, but the blonde Jedi easily avoided it with his heightened reflexes. With each strike Dooku was being pushed back, unable to mount a counteroffensive. As he was pushed back to the wall and Naruto began to make the motion for another strike, Dooku quickly spun counterclockwise before kicking the Jedi in the side, launching him across the hangar. Naruto crashed into the wall on the opposite side, however, to Dooku's surprise, he didn't seem harmed at all. That the best you got, old man? Naruto questioned the Count, who glared back. Between labored breaths. The more he fought against Naruto, the better the Jedi Master was becoming at responding to his attacks. He needed to end this quickly. With Ross stood in the bridge of his flagship, looking at the planet below. The battle in space was all but won, and the situation on the ground was similar. Separatist forces were being routed and their positions falling into Republic hands. It wouldn't be long before the planet was completely under Republic control. However, there was something that seemed amiss. He doubted the Separatists had any more ships or droids in reserve, so why do I have such a bad feeling about this? Like something terrible is about to happen, he thought as he frowned. Something was not right, and it was driving him nuts. After a few moments, get me in contact with Commander King immediately, Ross ordered as he turned and made his way to the large circular table in the rear of the bridge. Once he reached it, a hologram of King appeared, firing away his blasters at some droids. Sir? King questioned, wondering what Ross wanted. Where is Naruto? Ross questioned King, who fired some shots before looking at him. He went off to stop Count Dooku from escaping. King answered, causing Ross's to blink. Dooku was considered to have once been a powerful Jedi, and Naruto was off fighting him alone somewhere. That was when Ross' mind caught up with itself and realized King had just told him the Confederacy of Independent Systems head of state was the one commanding the droid army in battle. Ross's eyes widened in shock, and he began nearly yelling through the communicator. Count Dooku is on the planet and you didn't report this to command. I'm contacting General Kenobi now. He will arrive with backup as soon as possible. In the meantime, go after Naruto, now. Find that fool before he ends up dead. Ross ordered with urgency as King looked at him for a moment with a twinge of offense before nodding. He had faith in Naruto's abilities that Ross simply did not. The hologram promptly faded away as Ross turned his attention to the planet below once more. Naruto was a cunning warrior, yes, but Dooku was a high-priority target on a level of his own. He could only hope that King made it in time to provide backup. That was when Ross remembered he still had work to do. Get me General Kenobi, tell him it's a priority 1 message. Ross spat out in a haste. If the two of them were quick enough, then perhaps Naruto could still be alive. Naruto vs Dooku. The duel dragged on for several minutes as Naruto sent Dooku strike after strike, but all were deflected by Dooku's expert blade work. His superior experience and training had kept him on guard. This impenetrable defense had caused Naruto to become frustrated in his inability to get a hit on the Count. Come on, he growled in slight anger. Every time it seemed that the Count was backed into a corner, he would always find a way to fight back. Seems like you're having trouble, Naruto. The Nine-Tails spoke with a slight chuckle as Naruto narrowed his eyes. What did the fox want now? Not now, Naruto said, hoping to silence the fox, but the giant demonic canine only laughed. On the contrary, you need me. You've gotten better, but you can't defeat him or Grievous alone, you know that, don't you? Kurama asked rhetorically. Naruto only growled in response. The Count was far more experienced than him, but that did not mean he was incapable of beating him. I can do it myself, Naruto stated, sending another two-handed strike at the Count. It was so powerful that it almost broke Dooku's wrist, visible by the slight flinch and expression of pain on his face, but that was missed by Naruto. No, you can't. That is why I am allowing you to use my power against someone like Dooku. Just as once Kurama offered with a wicked grin. No, I wouldn't rely on power that I didn't gain myself, Naruto proclaimed. He would beat Dooku on his own and through his own skill and abilities. With that in mind, he quickly shifted his stance, one that Dooku did not recognize. What form is this? Dooku thought as he readied himself for whatever was to come. Naruto charged forward in a direct approach as Dooku frowned. He expected more from this new style, but it seems he would be disappointed. However, to his surprise, Naruto quickly sidestepped at the last second, attempting to strike at the Count from the left. Dooku quickly responded, blocking an incoming strike. He snarled as the offending lightsaber connected with his. So powerful the strike was that it sent a slight shock. That was not the end there, as Naruto quickly started to unleash a set of strikes against him, as he flipped over the Sith, with a move typical of Form IV, each as powerful as the rest. How strong is this boy? Dooku questioned, starting to sweat. His age had quickly started to catch up to him in this duel. He was beginning to feel the fatigue of a long fight, while Naruto didn't even show any signs of even breaking a sweat. Dooku knew he needed to end the duel quickly, but he started to think it had lasted too long already. He started to utilize more unorthodox tactics, drawing Naruto in and falling back towards the railing. That was when Dooku saw his opening. It seemed that despite his prowess in the art of dueling, young Naruto still had much to learn about martial combat. Dooku had just turned 80, while the late-trained blonde Jedi was barely 25. The 60-year gap in experience would always matter in a duel between the two of them, and Dooku was ready to teach Uzumaki a lesson he wouldn't soon forget. Naruto remained unaware of his surrounding as he was focused solely on Dooku, sending blow after blow, exhausting the last of the Count's stamina. As Naruto came in for another strike, Dooku quickly sidestepped behind him. Widening his eyes, Naruto realized what had just happened and the mistake he had made. He was so focused on Dooku he didn't realize that he now faced the railed edge of the catwalk, and when he felt Dooku push on his back, Naruto felt a great amount of pain in his stomach as he was slammed hard into the railing. In just a few short moments, the railing buckled and Naruto felt himself falling down. It wasn't a long fall, but he would definitely feel it. Naruto braced himself for the impact, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his stomach. No, his back. What the he shouted, but the words could not leave his mouth as he saw a red blade had pierced into his stomach from behind. Dooku had broken Makashi conventions and thrown his lightsaber at him. Naruto then felt the harsh collision with the ground he had prepared for, impacting it head first. Despite his wounds and the skull-cracking headache, Naruto stood up, ready to continue fighting. That was when the lightsaber was sharply drawn from his back with the force, causing him to collapse onto the ground from the pain. This wasn't like the deep scratches Grievous had given him. Naruto realized this was a fatal injury that he wouldn't be getting up from. The disorientation and shock was simply too much, and the blonde Jedi Master quickly fell into unconsciousness, certain that he wouldn't be waking up from this sleep. Deku was nearly panting as the force left his body, and his bones began to creak. He slowly made his way down the stairs, and reeled back in pain when his hand touched the railing. His wrist wasn't completely broken, but the bone was definitely fractured from that power attack. He made his way to an empty crate to use as a makeshift stool, tired from the prolonged duel, and wanting a brief respite for his elderly body. His forearms were aching badly from the heavy blows, and his strained knees would likely require a checkup from a medical droid. Deku looked over at his downed opponent, and began to walk towards the unconscious Jedi. "I must say you have become quite the Jedi, Master Uzumaki. Since I last saw you, you have noticeably grown in power and in experience. I remember when Master Windu was made the youngest Jedi Master ever at 28. The fact that you have beaten his record is a testament to your natural talent and growth. In 2 or 3 decades, you might even become as powerful as my own master," Deku remarked as he calmed his breathing and collected himself. Then, with a deep breath, he stood up from the chair. He simply started at the downed Jedi, thinking about other possibilities than ending this promising Force user. "I could take him with me, and perhaps one day he might turn to the dark side." Deku though briefly but shook his head. No, that would never work. He knew that Naruto held some kind of dark power within him, maybe darker and more powerful than his master. If such a power wasn't able to turn him to the dark side, then how would he be able to do that? Not to mention his master, Sidious, would never allow it. And even if he did, I worry at the prospect of young Naruto here being chosen to replace me, Deku thought with a frown. The Sith were beings of betrayal, and he knew that his master would betray him the moment he saw weakness within him. With that in mind, he slowly approached Naruto, igniting his red saber once more. "This is the end for you, young Jedi," Deku said as he readied the final strike. However, at the moment the Force forewarned him of the blaster fire incoming from the doorway. Turning his attention to the offending party, he saw a lone clone trooper in customized gold-striped armor, charging at him with twin blaster pistols firing away at him. Narrowing his eyes, he began to deflect the incoming blaster fire toward the clone, who evaded them all with grace and masterful reflexes, continuing to advance even after he ran out of ammunition. How peculiar, Deku thought as the clone was now within striking distance. As the Count swung his blade, ready to decapitate this foolish commander, the clone quickly threw his empty blaster pistols away as he dropped to his knees, evading the strike. Reaching under his plasteel bracers, King withdrew the custom extendable vibroblades Naruto had gifted him, and proceeded to block Deku's return strike, the Mandalorian iron weave in the blade, proving impossible for the saber to cut. He countered with a sweep from his second blade. The Count was able to block the strike, but King noticed the very vocal grunt the Count let slip when defending. His right wrist had been injured, that would be good to know. Deku's duel with Naruto had already sapped him of most his strength, and fighting a new opponent, especially a former clone commando, would prove to be a daunting task for the octogenarian Sith. It is rare to find common folk who are capable of fighting on par with a Force-sensitive. Ever rarer to find one that can stand up to the skill of a Sith Lord, Deku commented, thoroughly impressed as King narrowed his eyes under his helmet, blocking Deku's flowing form 2 strikes. The Sith grunted again and decided to switch to using his left hand for the rest of the battle. "You can thank my general for that," King stated as he went on the offensive, utilizing the Form V skills he had trained over the past 5 months, nearly catching the Count off guard. King had sparred with Naruto many times in the past to help the general improve his martial skills, and over time, King also picked up the art of bladed combat, and how to fight Force-sensitive opponents from their encounters. He might not be a Jedi, but he knew a thing or two about how to fight one off. And with Deku being already exhausted as he was from his fight with Naruto, King was confident that he could take on the Sith Lord. Focusing his attacks on the Count's right, Deku was forced to block awkwardly with his left hand or switch back to his right. He chose the latter and immediately regretted it as the pain from his fractured wrist surged up his arm. Deku realized this was what King had intended and renewed his assault, harnessing greater anger. King's twin vibroblades spun furiously in his defense against the light cuts and jabs. He was used to fighting a much faster opponent than Deku, but the gap in skill between Sith Lord and clone was still very much apparent. In Deku's case, there was little time to deal with the soul clone, as it was likely if he and Naruto had been found that reinforcements were on the way, likely more Jedi. Acknowledging that staying any longer would jeopardize his life, Deku jumped away from King with aid of the Force, landing near the ramp of his ship. "Tell me, Commander, would you rather continue struggling against me or save your general's life?" Deku questioned King, who couldn't help but look back at his general. Doing a quick checkup, King realized that Dooku had thankfully missed Naruto's spine, but Naruto was still severely wounded by the Count's saber throw, and there was profuse bleeding from his head, likely paired with a concussion or skull fracture. To King, the choice was clear. The clone quickly turned and ran towards the limp Naruto, intent on saving the life of his friend and brother. Dooku smirked in his little triumph, taking the chance to retreat, as the clone carried Naruto away on his back. As he boarded his ship, he took note that Skywalker's advance had just destroyed the final shield generator, leaving the base completely exposed. Lord Sidious definitely wouldn't be pleased. Dooku thought as the shuttle zoomed out of the base. Someone would pay dearly for this failure. With King. Come on. King said to himself as he ran down the hallway as he approached the exit. Upon exiting the base, he quickly found the 497th had readied their speeder bikes for a hasty getaway from the doomed separatist base. Gently securing the unconscious Naruto to vehicle, King hopped on it and went full throttle as he headed towards the Republic lines, and not too soon as Ross and the Spearhead had begun a low-orbit bombardment quickly tore the structure behind them to pieces. Good thing we weren't still in there, eh, General? He joked to Naruto's unresponsive body as the two of them sped off into the distance. Jedi Temple, Coruscant, 4 days later. Although the battle had been won with the destruction of the Separatist headquarters and the Separatist forces were in full retreat, the fighting on Renvar lasted for several more days, as ARC Trooper squad swept through and cleaned out the vast network of underground tunnels the Sith had set up throughout the planet. The Republic's forces had begun to consolidate and regroup to continue the offensive of Felucia, with Master Sakura now leading the expeditionary forces. As his troops moved further away from the galactic center, Naruto found himself stuck in a bed much closer. He'd been stuck in the temple's medbay with an annoyed look on his face for some time now. For the 10,000th time, Siri, I'm fine. Naruto whined as Siri continued looking over his wounds to make sure. Here he was, having been fatally wounded by a Sith Lord, saying that he was fine. The hole in his abdomen had already almost completely healed, thanks to the influence of energy from the oversized fox seal within. But Naruto was anything but fine. His skull had multiple fractures in his skull and one in his shoulder, not to mention the tremendous concussion and brain-splitting headache he still felt. When Siri had seen the condition he was in, she wanted to turn the entire 10th Army loose on Dooku, but Obi-Wan had thankfully calmed her down. No, you're not. Have you even seen the scar on your stomach? By the Force, you had a hole in your stomach, you idiot. Siri shouted, equally annoyed at his behavior and lack of self-preservation. I can see that you two are quite busy, should we come back later? The two turned to see a familiar Cal Dor standing in the doorway with a short orange Tigrita with tears in her eyes, barely holding herself back from leaping onto the injured blonde. Please, Master Plo, sis is just being overdramatic. I'm completely fine. I'll be back on the front lines in a few days at the latest, Naruto complained as Plo Koon chuckled, suggesting that he wait at least another week. Currently, most of the high-ranking Jedis were away from the temple, fighting or supervising their own forces. Plo Koon was the sole master with a seat on the council that remained at the temple at the time Naruto arrived. He was concerned about his former Padawan's condition, but after hearing him complain that Dooku had used a cheap trick, the Cal Dor was confident there was nothing to worry about. I wish I could stay longer, Naruto, but I'm actually here to gather Siri for a mission to Cato Nemoidia. I was hoping she could join me on. Don't worry, I've brought another young lady to watch over Naruto while you're gone. She should keep him company for some time. Plo Koon gestured for Ahsoka to take Siri's place at Naruto's bedside. She couldn't move fast enough for her liking. Siri, go with Plo. When you're done on Cato, I want you to meet up with Isla and Ross on Felucia and continue the campaign north under Ross's command. I know you want to be by my side, but I'd feel much more comfortable if you were out doing something productive instead of stuck here worrying about me. Siri nodded, wiping away the bit of moisture welling in her eyes, and she and Plo Koon walked out the door. Naruto waited for a few seconds to make sure no one would be coming back, and then he immediately turned to Ahsoka, who immediately whipped out 3 stacks of cards. Hope you brought enough credits this time, brat. Naruto asked as he set up his side deck for the upcoming match. Nah, no. You're the one that's gonna pay up this time. Ahsoka retorted, drawing the first card in the Pazok deck. 1 hour later, Naruto tried to hide his grumble as he held onto his sole remaining card, a measly 2. He was at 16, so he could try to stand at 18, but Ahsoka was hot in his trail with 14. Not wanting to chance a bust, Naruto opted to play his card. Ahsoka drew hers, a 3 that brought her total up to 17. That was when Naruto's smile faded as Ahsoka dropped another 3 from her hand, giving her a perfect 20 and winning the set. Damn concussion. Naruto muttered, having not won a single hand all day. He was almost 600 credits in the red, and was about to call it quits when the door suddenly opened, and Ahsoka scrambled to gather up all the cards before someone saw. Compassing themselves, the two turned their attention to Naruto's new guest, only to be surprised to find Supreme Chancellor Palpatine himself walk through the doorway. Ah, Master Uzumaki, good to see you up and about. I see your recovering is coming along swiftly. The Chancellor smiled warmly before nodding to Ahsoka in acknowledgement of her presence, not yet knowing the Tigrita teen's name. If I may interrupt you too, this whole situation on Renvar brought with it some news that I wish to discuss. This isn't about me moving without Rasazu. Naruto asked, eyeing the Chancellor's personal guard. We had no contact with Coruscant for days, and General Kenobi had requested my assistance. I had no choice but to move. Naruto attempted to explain, but Palpatine merely raised his hands to stop the blonde from getting too carried away. No heavens no, my dear boy. You're not in any sort of trouble. Your actions were heroic and likely saved the day. I wish the Republic had more officers with your initiative. I was thrilled when the Council voted for your promotion to Jedi Master. From what I hear, you've already been down to the Master's archive to seek more advanced knowledge of the Force. I admire your dedication to the Order, as well. Palpatine layered on his praise for the youngest Jedi Master in the Order's history. The more prideful part of Naruto was having a wonderful day, but another part of him was sick of hearing this list of compliments that was getting far too long for his liking. This turned his attention back to the Chancellor when the man had finally decided to get the point of his visit. The reason I'm here, Master Jedi, concerns the report of you and the commander of the 497 seconds encounter with Count Dooku. Considering the friendly relations between you two and the skill you've demonstrated, I've decided that the two of you should work together more closely. Palpatine explained warmly. Because I would hate to lose one of my most accomplished generals so early in the war. Ahsoka gripped his hand as Palpatine began to over-explain his idea of reassigning the 497th to be Naruto's personal troops. This was an idea that intrigued Naruto. Out of everyone in the 10th Army, King was the person he felt closest to, aside from Siri, at least. So working together with him more was an idea Naruto approved of. And of course CC-1293 will be promoted to the rank of Clone Marshal Commander for his heroics as well. This also means that you'll need to assign and train a new legion to fill the vacancy left in the 14th Corps. I'm sorry to say, but all we have available for you at the moment are fresh recruits from Kamino. So you'll need to travel there to meet them. Palpatine's droning finally came to an end, and Naruto had a chance to think. Ahsoka's grip tightened and he turned to the young Togruta, who obviously had hoped to spend her free time with him. Training a legion in his tactics and formations would take up all of his spare time for the next week at the very least. Naruto looked at his soon-to-be Padawan and made his decision. I think that's a great idea, Chancellor Palpatine. Naruto turned back to the elderly man, who smiled. I'll look over the troops later today and begin training them at the crack of dawn tomorrow. Oh dear, there's no need for that, Master Jedi. Focus on your recovery. The clones will be there when you're properly discharged. Good day and I wish you a speedy recovery, Master Uzumaki. Palpatine turned to Ahsoka and nodded again, having neglected to learn the young Togruta's name, before leaving the room, his guards following soon after. Naruto felt a small thud on his unbroken shoulder. Naruto turned to the offending orange-skinned teen. Would you do that, Naru? Now we'll never get to have any time for ourselves. Ahsoka whined as she slugged him once more. Naruto smiled for a bit and only looked at her one last time, before asking the all-too-important questions. Ahsoka, you're heading for Ilum later this month to find your Kyber crystal, right? Ahsoka nodded in response. And after that, you'll be a Padawan, and not just any Padawan, but my Padawan, right? She smiled and nodded again more eagerly this time. Well, here's the deal, Ahsoka. After today, I realize that I can't protect you forever out on that battlefield. It breaks my heart to accept that you'll end up fighting, but I figured I might as well teach you what I know, and make sure you can protect yourself from any situation the Seps send your way. So you're coming with me to Kamino as soon as I'm discharged. Ahsoka lit up at that, eager to spend more time with Naruto. And while you're teaching the troops the formations and tactics, I'm learning them too, right? Ahsoka beamed and Naruto nodded in affirmation. As well as everything I know about combat, at least for as long we have spare time. So maybe not everything, but as much as I can. Naruto felt a sharp pain as Ahsoka's arms wrapped around his shoulders, including the broken one. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.